Greg, just on that, and going back to Rob being a role model in this too, is one of the things we do when we're building psychological safety in a company is we get leaders to share their stories, literally their life journey. And again, at work, you're not going to like everybody but once you understand their story, where they've come from, even the things you say you don't like about them start to make sense a little bit. And what we've noticed is the more people share their own stories, exactly what you're pointing to here, the easier it becomes for other people to share their own stories. And before you know it, trust, psychological safety goes through the roof. It's just such a powerful thing to do, but it takes that initial courage, people like Rob and so forth, to do that in the first place.
Okay, so one of the comments here is, unfortunately, it's not just old school management. I've had a bad experience with someone who was younger than me as a supervisor. So, we're all getting older, and naturally some people are going to go into leadership roles. And, we're not necessarily in the same generation or mindset.
Yeah, that's true. Can I just say on that, when I say old school, I'm not necessarily talking about age. I'm talking about old methodologies, believing the stick is the way to lead. You lead through sticks and carrots, and it's not about age. Young people can do that too.
Okay, someone's pointed out Patrick Lencioni's latest book, Motive. The Motive is a wonderful resource for leaders and leaders who may be chosen unsuitable paths. So he's quite renowned.
Yeah, sounds good.
Next Generation Safety Leadership, from Compliance to Care.
So that's my book.
Clive. Yep.
Yeah, that is, again, how organisations can build psychological safety. I did put another one in before that. Thoroughly recommended reading Amy Edmondson's The Fearless Organisation. And again, that's probably the Bible, as it were, in terms of organisations wanting to create psychological safety. It's a must read. If that's part of your remit as a leader, is to start building psychological safety, that book is a must read.
Yep. You just chuck that into the chat there, Clive, please.
I did actually.
You did already? Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
Yep.
There it is. It's just up the list a little bit.
Yeah.
And there's a comment from Martin about more to do to move people from technically to emotional competent.
Yeah. And that is not in any way to, of course, put technical skills down. We need those. But there was a recent study out from the ACRE framework that I wrote about at the back of the book, and that is, I think it was 98 of the panelists, that is 98 health and safety leaders. They actually viewed non-technical skills as the most important for leaders, non-technical skills, and that's the emotional intelligence stuff.
I mean, I think honestly that's backed up by industry. Like, just speaking from maintenance and reliability perspective, like the further I've gone in industry and the more I talk to different plants, it's not the technical skills that we don't have. Like I have books about root cause analysis. I have books about RCM. I have, like, people, across the world, the knowledge is obvious. It's just people aren't executing the jobs to the best of their abilities. And the reason they're not able to do that is basically it's all the people stuff. It's the psychological safety. It's their emotional well-being. It's the fact that they're managed by fear. It's all these things that are, so I'm sure, like, we all know it's obvious, but yet we still promote these people, and we still send them to, we don't train, leaders, and we just fall really short, like really short.
Yeah, I agree. I've got another question here from Andre. I think he's stalking you, Rob.
He works with me, so.
Is that the guy from Ottawa?
No, he's in Edmonton with me.
Would you say that developing emotional intelligence skills helps to improve mental illness impact, as I know myself better?
Well, from my personal experience, so I'll tell you, basically, so I've gone down this road with respect to, what Clive, you've talked about, and Jeff, you've talked about as well, is I actually am an empath. And I didn't know that until about 7 months ago.
Yeah.
I struggled with anxiety my entire life, and I didn't know, because I basically boxed in all my emotions, and I shut everything down since I was a kid, and really just did it to protect myself, because you had to feel manly, you had to look manly, you weren't allowed to show how much things impacted you. And really, that's been my emotional awareness has only really opened up since I've started putting in the work. And I think that's where you've seen me personally make this huge leap in the last 6 months, is it's all come from that. It's all put me on this mission to spread this word and to talk about it more and to really push like this new style leadership in the world and really just get out here and help people.
Brilliant.
I
Greg?
completely concur actually on the back of that, Rob. As you were speaking, I was thinking of you think about your whole life, about how you roll through life, and what struck me is in terms of relationships for me, I would have these very short 2-week, 3-week relationships multiple times, and always finish them in some way for some completely absurd reason, like she breathes funny, or something like that, and over many years, I realized, it dawned on me that it can't all be their issue. There's only one continuing thing that's happening here, and it seems to be that I might actually be the problem here. So it was that sudden realization, well, a long time realization, and from that point, it was then trying to work on myself and go, so if the problem exists here, what do I need to do? If I was going to solve the problem anywhere else, you'd research it, you'd find it, and you'd do it quickly. But in terms of humanness, it was for me to go, now it's time for me to look at me. So it was a process of, counseling, self-help books, finding various different ways and things that suited me. And there was one little technique that's really challenging. It was very challenging for me, that dealt with how I felt about myself in self-love. And so I came across this as an idea, which was using a mirror technique and actually looking at yourself. Because I used to use mirrors in a very, very dark way, generally drunk in the middle of the night, somewhere in the early hours of the morning, staring at myself in the mirror. And the things I was saying to myself were things I would never dream of saying to anyone in my life. And so this process was to change that by actually using a mirror and looking at myself in the eyes. And this can be very challenging particularly for us as men, and to actually say and mean it, I love you. And to do that and actually maintaining eye contact with yourself, to do that, very, very strange to begin with, but it completely changed how I viewed myself in those moments. And I still do. I can still catch myself in a mirror now, give myself a little wink and go, I love you. You're all right.
I need to start doing that, Greg. I like
man.
that.
It feels completely weird to begin with, and can be really challenging. But the effect is, who are you, and why? And be kind to you.
And you pick up on a really strong psychological point there, Greg, as well, in the self-talk we use, And I loved your point before, and that is the things I'm telling myself about myself. Would I actually say that to my friend?
Yeah.
Would I actually say that to dear one? No, you wouldn't. So how do you think on earth it's okay for you to say that about you? If you'd never say those things to somebody else, why is it okay to say it to you? Yeah. And I think this is where, again, that awareness, that self-awareness comes in. When we become aware of how we talk to ourselves, become conscious of that, because often we do that totally subconsciously. But the self-talk's still there in the background. I'm hopeless, I can't do this, it'll never improve. All of those, what we call in rehab, stinking thinking. Stinking thinking. If you're conscious of it, you can do something about it. And you can actually start to change that.
To a point you made earlier, Clive, about we all have some mental health going on as an individual human being. I have this vision of a denial doorway that we either open and go through to a better life, like Rob has obviously done, and I've done similar in my journey. That you're
still standing in the doorway, Jeff.
You just have to take it on and go through and at least try and explore. You think I'm still sitting in the doorway, Rob?
Yeah,
I think Rob's probably gone through. Maybe it's got a porch, Rob, but I think you're through the door.
I think you're
I
through
go
the door.
through and back almost every day.
Yeah.